All right, buckle up, everyone. Today, we're taking a deep dive into the fascinating world of event sourcing, specifically how it's shaking things up in the world of microservice architectures.
Microservices. It's like taking your application, breaking it down into these little mini apps, each doing its own thing.
Exactly. And the magic really happens when these independent units can communicate flawlessly. Think of it like, well, a team of expert chefs in a bustling kitchen.
You got it. Each chef with their specialty, their station. But it's that smooth flow of information orders coming in, updates flying around, dishes being completed. That's what makes a service hum.
Makes total sense.
Yeah.
But we've all seen those cooking shows, right? Kitchens can get chaotic. In our software world, we need to make sure that when one microservice updates something, the others don't miss a beat. Our research uses online orders as a classic example.
Yeah, spot on. Imagine someone ordering their new gadget online. You've got the order service processing the request, the payment service making sure the funds are going through, and then, of course, you have the inventory service making sure that shiny new gadget is actually in stock.
So many moving parts. So how do we traditionally make sure everything's, in sync? There's that two-phase commit protocol, right?
Right, you're thinking of 2PC. It's a staple in traditional systems. But, and here's the kicker, it can be a bit like trying to get all those chefs to stop what they're doing and have a little meeting every time a single ingredient changes hands.
Oh, I see. A bit of a bottleneck.
Exactly. Especially in this world of microservices where speed and agility are everything. It's like trying to run a Michelin star restaurant at fast food speed with 2PC.
So 2PC may be good for a small dinner party, not so much for a bustling restaurant. That's where event sourcing comes in, offering a totally fresh perspective, right?
You got it. Instead of getting caught up in trying to synchronize every little update across all these services, event sourcing says, hey, let's treat every change in the system as an event, something to be recorded.
An event, let's say like a time-stamped record of what just happened,
Yeah.
almost like a line in a logbook.
Precisely. Think of it as maintaining this detailed log of every single action in that bustling kitchen we talked about.
So we're not just talking about an order being placed, but every little action, like payment received, ingredient used, dish prepared, plated, served.
Exactly. Each action is a time-stamped event, and it all gets recorded in this specialized database. We call it the event store.
So instead of just knowing, say, whether a dish is ready or not, you have this whole history, this journey of every action that led up to that moment.
And that's where things get interesting. Right, you're thinking about things a little differently now. We're not aiming for that perfect, everything in sync at all times situation. We embrace this idea of eventual consistency.
Eventual consistency.
Yeah.
So we're okay with a little lag here and there.
Precisely. It's a different way of thinking, for sure. Imagine, back to our kitchen, the chef yells out, "Order up!" Now, not everyone's going to stop what they're doing right that second, right?
No way.
But everyone will get the info eventually, and they'll act accordingly.
Right, right. Everyone's still on the same page, just maybe not reading the same line at the exact same time.
You got it. It's all about that loose coupling, remember? Each service, each chef at their station, they're tuned in to the events that are relevant to their domain, and they react. No need for everyone to be in everyone else's business all the time.
Our research used a customers and orders application as an example. Walk me through that. How would this whole event sourcing thing actually work in that scenario?
Okay, so picture this. We've got a customer, let's call her Sarah. Sarah's about to order, say, a fancy new noise-canceling headset.
Nice. Perfect for diving into a podcast.
Exactly. So now, instead of just updating some database table somewhere saying Sarah ordered a headset, we generate an event, an order-created event, time-stamped and everything.
And that event, it goes straight to the event store, our chronological logbook.
You got it. Now, let's say our inventory service, it's tuned into these order-created events. It hears about Sarah's order, and it knows, boom, got to reserve one of those headsets.
Makes sense. Each service listening to what matters to them. Love it. But what happens when things go wrong? What if there are no headsets left?
The million-dollar question. In that case, instead of just throwing a wrench in the works, some system crashing error, the inventory service, it generates its own event, something like inventory unavailable.
Okay. So the order service has to be listening for those inventory unavailable events, right? I mean, it still seems like things can get a little tangled.
Not at all. This is where the beauty of event sourcing, especially when it teams up with other patterns, really shines. Remember we talked about sagas? Well, here they come into play.
Sagas, right? Like those epic multi-part movies.
Yeah, exactly. But instead of story arc, it's about coordinating all these actions across different services.
So like a choreographer, but for our microservices.
You got it. So back to Sarah's headset. The inventory service says, nope, no headsets left, throws out that inventory unavailable event, and the Saga steps in like, hold up, everybody. Let's handle this smoothly.
Smoothly, meaning?
So the Saga, it might trigger a whole bunch of what we call compensating actions.
Compensating actions. That's kind of like hitting the undo button.
That way, yeah. Release the payment hold, let Sarah know what's up, maybe even suggest some other headsets she might like. But it all happens in order, no chaos, all guided by the Saga.
This is amazing. So we've got this awesome audit trail. We can design these systems that can handle curveballs. It's like having a safety net built right into our code.
That's event sourcing for you, but there's one more piece we got to talk about CQRS. Command Query Responsibility Segregation.
CQRS. Catchy.
Right. It goes hand in hand with event sourcing a lot of the time. Helps us out with a common challenge querying the data.
Ah, right. With event sourcing, we're basically storing the history of everything, not just the current state of things. So how do we find what we need without replaying the entire saga every time?
Exactly. Back to our kitchen analogy, CQRS is like having a dedicated sous chef. They're keeping a separate, up-to-the-minute view of the kitchen, like a snapshot.
So we've got our main event log, every single action, but then we have this other view optimized for those right now questions.
Precisely. Someone wants to know the status of their order, no need to rewind through history. We check the snapshot, instantaneous.
This has been mind-blowing. Okay, so for our listeners who are now deep in thought about all this, what are the big takeaways? What should they remember about event sourcing?
Number one, it's a different way of thinking. Events are king. Every change is recorded. And that unlocks some amazing stuff, like we said, atomicity, that perfect audit trail, even the ability to go back in time.
And this is important, it's not a magic wand.
Not at all. There's a learning curve, for sure. Querying is different. We need to be mindful of that eventual consistency.
Like any tool, you got to know when to use it.
Yeah.
And it seems like the real magic happens when we combine it with these other patterns like sagas, CQRS.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's about putting together the right tools to build systems that are adaptable, that can scale, that can handle whatever you throw at them, especially in the world of microservices, where everything's always changing.
I love it. It's like looking at your code with a fresh pair of eyes.
So if you're ready to dive deeper into the world of event sourcing and all this cool stuff, make sure you subscribe to Code Impact. Find us on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, happy coding, everyone.